So following on from the previous little video, I want to show you how to weld a shape into the middle of one of the pattern panels, and then how to create an aperture. Because if any of you have been around crafting for quite a long time, you'll know that this kind of die at this size costs you a pretty penny. And I think it looks fabulous. And because we've got all the patterns and we've got all the shapes, so you've got 30 patterns and 30 shapes, which is going to give you, just before you start doing anything else, 900 options, which is just fabulous. You know, if you love this pattern with that shape, but then you wanted a different shape, you'd have to buy another die. And there's nothing wrong with dies, and dies have that lovely thing where it curves it almost embosses it, so it's a different look and feel. But you can achieve something similar to that with the layer ones that we've just shown you. But I just want to show you this because I like this, and there's an extra little step that you need to put in. So I'm going to use the patterns that we created in the previous video, and then I'll show you how this works. So we're going to canvas now. And I don't want anyone to be scared of canvas, because it really isn't daunting at all. Once you just play, because it has an undo button, which is just fabulous. Right, so I'm just going to separate these 3 layers, first of all. And because we're going to weld something to it, so we created this layer, and we created the offset line, and then we put the square around it. But we missed out the important bit that you need to do to be able to weld something on top to a pattern, and that's dividing it. Because when you weld something, it's like digitally gluing. And to weld a shape into the middle of here, it needs to overlap all the parts. And that's impossible on here, because you've got all these pieces sat on top of that square. Once we divide it, it's one shape, so then you can weld to it. So let's do that. So I'm going to get rid of this one, because we're not going to use that one anyway, and get rid of that one. And I'm going to just bring in a shape. So let's divide these first. So let's drag a box around here, go to edit, and let's digitally punch or divide all those shapes through that square. So then we are left with that, which is our divided shape. Now it sees that now as one shape, and then all these pieces we can put in the bin. Okay, and then I'm also going to do this one as well. So I'm going to drag around that, go to edit and divide that. And as long as that bar is going across the top, it's still thinking about it. So I'm going to move that one and get rid of that and put that in the bin. So I've now got my 2 layers, okay? So let's now go into our USB. So go to SVG and choose File. And let's go back into SVG card making. Let's go to Card Shapes, and let's choose a shape. Let's choose number. Now I've got a choice to make. This takes me forever. Let's choose number 2. Okay, from 6x6. So as I said earlier, I've ended up putting mine in a different place, and Andrew's going to help me put it back where it belongs, which is good, because I wouldn't have a clue how to do that. I don't know how I did it in the first place. So I'm going to press OK. So I'm going to drag this, and I know that might sound absolutely ridiculous to some people, but I wasn't brought up with computers, and I learned the bit that I need to learn to do the next bit that I want to do. That's how I learn, and that's how I teach, because otherwise it's overwhelming. Right, so I'm going to drag these 2 first of all. So I've selected both of those. I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to align them centrally vertically, edit again, align them centrally horizontally, and just drag them onto here. I'm going to click on there, and I'm going to click on that shape, and I'm just going to make it the size that I want it to be. So I'm going to just scale that down a little bit like that. I'm going to take it a bit smaller because I don't want it too big, but this could be perfect for your sentiment if you wanted to put a sentiment into here. So let's align this now. So edit. No, drag a box first, Melanie. Edit and align. And edit and align. And then I've got my shape there. So first thing I'm going to do is duplicate this. And I'm going to duplicate it a few times. So I'm going to go to edit and just click a few. So I've got that, and I've got that. I'm just going to do that again. So I'm going to move this one to make sure I've only got one, which I have. And instead of realigning it, I'm going to use undo, which will put it back to where it was. And then I'm just going to duplicate it another couple of times because I can. And I might not use them all, but I've got them if I need them. So now what I'm going to do is drag those two, go to edit and weld them. And weld is in process overlap, and you'll recognize it. So it now gives me this. Okay, so I've now got my welded shape. Perfect. So I'm going to move that up there. Now I want to weld one to this as well. But I want to be able to see this welded shape behind here. So if you just come back to me, Andrew, please. That sounded very diva-ish. Just come back to me, please. You can see on here, let me see if I can find a white piece of paper to put behind this. You've got your white shape welded there, but on the black one, I've made it bigger so that you can actually see the matte layer behind it. So it really, because it's denser, I guess, the black is wider there, it frames this bit. So it really brings the focus in on the sentiment. So if you're sending a card to somebody, maybe for sympathy, maybe for birthday, maybe for whatever, and the sentiment is really important, this is going to help really focus in on that. So it's just a cool way of doing your matting and layering. So let me show you how we do that back in Canvas. So all we're going to do is what we've done before, is select one of these. We're going to go to edit and we're going to create an offset line. And I'm going to do a 4mm outward, because I want it bigger, offset line, and delete the original. So now I've got this. Now, as long as I align that centrally, vertically, and centrally, horizontally, so I go to edit, select them first, Melanie, edit, and align it centrally, vertically, edit, and align it centrally, horizontally, edit, and weld. It will weld that onto there. Now, when I do this and align those, go to edit and align centrally, vertically, edit and align horizontally, and I zoom in for you, you can see that you will have a thicker line. It's actually easier showing you on here. So if I just separate these two for you again, you can see this is your offset line. So the chunkier of the two, and this is your finer one. And when I put the finer one over the top, the square's exactly the same. So you can literally pick it up and do that, and it will line up perfectly all over. You've created a drop shadow, not just behind the pattern, but you've also created that layer around here, which I think is super cool. Okay. So that's that bit. Now we're going to go one step further. And what we're going to do now, if I just bring in my black card again, is we're going to put an aperture in the middle like that. Okay, so you've now got that. Because I love this. I think this is, I would just cut all 30. I'd design all these 30 and just store them in Canvas in the cloud. And then every time I wanted a die like this or a shape like this, a file like this, it's there. I can spend 3 or 4 days just sat at home just doing stuff in Canvas Workspace and just preparing all the things that I want to do. I really, really enjoy doing that. And I never thought I would. I was the one that was going, no, never going in Canvas, don't want to, don't like it, blah, blah, blah. And now I love it. Now, I just want to address this while we're here. So I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to keep one of those and I'm going to get rid of the other two. So we're just focused on this. Now, sometimes when we're designing, we try our best to get it as symmetrical as possible. But sometimes you end up with these little tiny cuts here and here that aren't here and here. So the way to get around that is to do this. So download it to your machine, or if you haven't got a Wi-Fi enabled machine, you would download it and save it onto your computer, put it onto a USB and then put it into your machine. And just like we did previously, you send it to your machine, you send it back, and then you can ungroup it. And when you can ungroup the pattern, you can then delete those little pieces off. So I'm not going to do it because we've already covered that when we did putting a pattern in a letter. We did that bit. but I just wanted to show you that it is doable. Okay, so if you've got any little stray bits and you think, oh, I don't like that, it's not the same, you can do it by sending it to your machine, sending it straight back to canvas, and that will enable you to ungroup it and delete the bits off that you don't want. But for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this shape and create an inward offset line now. So I'm going to go to Edit, Offset, and if you've ever joined me on any of the free classes, you will hear me say a lot that scan and cut is repetitive. So is canvas, okay? And repetition is the mother of all skill. The more you do it, the better you get at it. So I'm just going to delete the original. So I've got an inward offset line now. I'm going to move that out of the way and bring this back in. So now what I'm going to do is align this in the middle of here. So I'm going to select both of them. Go to Edit and align centrally vertically. Edit and align centrally horizontally. And then go to Edit and divide it. And then it will move that shape and you now have your aperture in the middle of your pattern. And I think that is super, super cool, because then you can raise this up on foam pads, you can put your sentiment and raise that up, you could stamp your sentiment in there because you've then got that panel. Now, if you want to do mats and layers with your sentiment, if we just undo that and we undo it so that our shape is separate, if you at this point create more inward offset lines, so we'll do a 2mm inward, but we'll leave the original as it is, and then we'll do another 3mm inward and leave it as it is. You can then take the original, which is still highlighted, and align that. And this is why I love filming this education before we actually take this product on air, because you can be watching this and learning it while you're waiting for your USB to arrive. Now I can take these two now and put those in the middle of that, and that could be my mat layers for my sentiment, because everything will align perfectly. So you can create your mats and layers and your apertures and your welded patterns and all of that in Canvas Workspace without worrying about whether you need to upgrade to an SDX, because I don't think, and this is just me and what I've done, I don't think there's anything that you can do on an SDX that you can't do on a CM with Canvas Workspace. And if there is, I apologise, it's just that I haven't found it yet. So when I meet people out and about and they're like, do I need an SDX? I was like, well, you don't need one. You might want one and you might want to upgrade, but you don't have to, because you can still do all the things that I'm going to teach you. And that's really important, because the SDX wouldn't exist if we hadn't sold so many of the original machines. So for me, that's a big thing. I need to make sure that the education that we give you is available for everybody. So I'm going to finish that bit now, and then we'll come back and we'll do something else. If you want to see more from Highlight Crafts, make sure you click the like button. Subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below, and click the bell icon to receive notifications of all our future content. You can also click here to see our latest video, or click here to see more videos like this one.